Welcome into the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining me today. It is a fine Tuesday here in the Midlands. Got some stuff we're going to get into, all kind of good stuff, to be honest with you. So we'll look forward to taking your calls at 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon. Lots of great stuff that we're going to talk about today. Some teams or one team is deciding to punt on someone that they hired. Should the Power 5 conferences break away from the NCAA? We'll get into that. Who is the next set of folks that has the opportunity that you think could get into the college football playoff? I'll give you some of the teams with the highest winning percentages that maybe they could be that next team that says, you know what, all right, we could make our way into the playoff. I'll give you some of the teams that are listed in an article that I found that are kind of interesting. Some of them I agree with, some of them I don't. Also, I want to start today with something that I was kind of tossing around in my head, and I thought about it for a minute. We're getting to a point now where we are at the point in the year where college basketball is going to take center stage. And if you're listening to this program, you're most likely going to watch some of the NCAA tournament. You may in reality not care as much about the insert your basketball team here, okay? But I started thinking about it. And I was looking at, what do you think? There are some schools that do really, really well in basketball, but they don't do so well in football. Enter Duke. They do really well in football, but they don't do very well in basketball. Hello, Georgia. So I started thinking about it. What were the teams in the SEC and the ACC that have probably the best football-basketball combination? And I came up with some here. In the ACC, you got to look at North Carolina. Right now, they've got, of course, Mac Brown and Hubert Davis. They're probably going to make the tournament this year. They're a respectable basketball program. Football team is pretty good. The other teams that I came up with that are kind of, there's a lot of new coaches in the ACC, and it's kind of hard to say, okay, this is a good set here. But I came up with a couple of others. I like Syracuse with Jim Boeheim and Dino Babers. I think that's a good set there. Also, I like Miami with Jim Larrañaga and Mario Cristobal. Now, I know that Coach Cristobal, it's his first season there, but Larrañaga always puts out a good Miami basketball team. They're very competitive, and the football team is right there in the mix. Now, I give you this because those are the three that came through, and I was like, all right, that's actually pretty good as far as having respectable programs on football and basketball. But you look at the SEC, and it's gotten to a point where the SEC was kind of looked down upon as a basketball conference, but there are some great basketball teams there now. Obviously, Kentucky steals their way to a championship or into the championship standings every season. So, yeah, I think they're right there in the mix. But here are the top 5 combinations. Big Barney Ross already got me goofing over here, saying TurboTax is the worst computer game ever. Thank you, sir. But here's some of the combinations in the SEC that I think are really good. Josh Heipel and Rick Barnes at Tennessee. Heipel came in and took a Tennessee team that we all kind of laughed at, did some great stuff, and Coach Barnes has been great at the setup with at different schools. Was great at Clemson, Texas, and at Tennessee. The real MVP says Baylor is the best football basketball combo. Yeah, you could definitely go that. But we're doing the ACC and the SEC today. Brian Kelly down at LSU. I mean, a proven winner, and Will Wade. Will Wade's right there in the mix too, even though he's admitted that he pays money for his players. Jimmy had my next one. Arkansas, Sam Pittman and Eric Musselman. I like Coach Musselman a lot. A lot. And Sam Pittman, I mean, people are really starting to get into the mix with, hey, Sam Pittman is great. You got to bring up Alabama, too, because Alabama has Nick Saban and Nate Oates. Oates has that basketball team. They did really well last year making the tournament, and they're going to make the tournament this year. They're playing some pretty good basketball. And then, of course, you got to go with Mark Stoops and John Calipari at Kentucky. Mark Stoops, in my opinion, I have a bias towards Coach Calipari. I have to admit that to you because I simply believe that he cheats. He's left every program that he's had in shambles. And eventually Kentucky will be the same way. It's just a matter of time. Clock is ticking, ladies and gentlemen. That's just the way that it is. But Mark Stoops makes the most out of rotten lemons at Kentucky. They are a respectable program, and he ends up with a lot of recruits that were not really in the Power Five front. I would love to see Coach Stoops coach the Texas A&M team, just as far as the talent goes and the money and everything else that he would have there. They would be a dominant bunch. But those are my lists there of the ACC teams that are the ACC schools that I think have a very good balance on the basketball and football front. The same thing goes for the SEC with Nick Saban and Nate Oates and Mark Stoops and John Calipari pretty much up there at the top of the list. Although Sam Pittman and Eric Musselman are right there in the mix. So it is hard to succeed at both sports. But that was the other thing I was going to bring up today. At 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown. Why do you think that there's a section of folks that are just, I'm going to watch football and I could care less about the basketball team? Because there are people that feel that way. Look, I could show you just from the show. We have a lot more interaction during the football season. I know everyone loves the football stuff, but basketball is a great sport too. I just wonder what the disconnection is there between the basketball team, supporting the basketball team, and supporting the football team. Thought we could talk about that today. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. I think the best combo, though, probably I would have to go. If you told me I could have two, I could have my pick, I would probably go with Nick Saban and Nate Oates. Because I think that Nate Oates, we know that Nick Saban's going to win national titles. We also know that Nate Oates has the potential that he has his team set up and they're going to be, they have no problem squaring off with Kentucky and they play with a chip on their shoulder. So if you told me I had my pick for whatever school that I was at, that's probably the top set in my opinion. Nick Saban and Nate Oates at Alabama. Alabama's done a good job of putting together those two. And anyway, that's my rankings for best coaches combo there with the best football and basketball combination for each school. Anyway, we'll take calls on that. 803-978-1832. Jason Sanford says nobody cares about college basketball and baseball. Stop talking about them. Okay, well, Jason, here's the thing, man. I've got a radio show that I have to do every day, and I can't do a show talking about football players that aren't really doing spring practice. The Super Bowl is over, and people do care about college baseball here in the South. I know that sounds really harsh, but they do. This weekend, South Carolina and Clemson will play a college baseball series. They will fill up the minor league stadium down here in Columbia, as well as Founders Park and at Clemson too. So it's closed-minded and silly to think that people don't care about college baseball. That's absolutely not true. You may not like it, but people do. And as far as college basketball goes, the sports world shuts down for the NCAA tournament. It's just the way that it is. And by the way, if you wanted to go this weekend to the Duke, North Carolina game, just to get in the door right now is $5,000. People that don't care wouldn't be spending $5,000. There are people that absolutely care. So to say that people don't care, I just don't get it. Now, there is a section that's just disconnected. And they don't care if the school is on the front of, hey, we want to be competitive in basketball or not, or in baseball. But to say that people don't care, that's just not completely true, sir. Not completely true. Edmund says he's not wild about basketball, but college baseball is outstanding. Look, you're absolutely right. And I tell you what, the owners and the players for Major League Baseball, where everybody's making tons and tons of money, yeah, they're going to be the owners today put out this thing. We're going to put out one final deal to the players, and it's take it or leave it. That's for that to make it out to the press shows. The owners don't care about Major League Baseball. They don't. But you know what? Here's the way to fix that. And I've said it, and I think several other people have too. Take these college baseball games that are streaming on ESPNU and all that, and put them in the same spots where Major League Baseball was. And watch these guys that are out there really trying to play their butts off, and they're not motivated by, oh, I'm going to make $30 million this year, and that's not quite enough to play first base for anybody. Have some of that. Put some passion back into that. Major League Baseball is becoming a joke with this labor stuff, and they better get it right, because if they miss any games, it's going to be a mess. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832, but put that into the mix. And I assure you, by the way, Jason, follow me on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. I'll show you pictures this weekend of, 4,000 people that just don't care at a college baseball game this weekend when I'm at the rivalry matchup for Clemson and South Carolina at Segra Park. Yeah, those people, yeah, they don't care. Just 4,000 of them are going to show up. 4,000 of them. There's tickets online are like $60 a piece. Yeah, those people don't care. Silly. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I do have a football topic here. Jason says, really, how come 99% of them make no money? You think that certain basketball programs don't make money? Really? If we're looking just at the bottom line, I assure you a lot of them are in the black instead of in the red. We can go list by list if you want. Now, there's going to be certain programs that don't put out a good program or don't put out a good product, and they're going to be terrible. But there's that too. All right, so I do have a football topic I want to throw at you really quick here too. The Art Briles story, it is basically becoming, we've gotten to a point now where people complained, and Art Briles is now out at Grambling. 4 days after he was hired as the OC, he finds himself back out onto the market. According to Pete Thamel of ESPN, he will no longer be the offensive coordinator at Grambling State. Thamel reports that Briles resigned the position, issuing a statement obtained by ESPN on his way out. He says, unfortunately, I feel that my continued presence will be a distraction to you and your team, which is the last thing that I want. I have the utmost respect for the university and your players. Yeah. Okay. I think pressure from someone got this guy where he is like, yep, I'm out of here. Edwin with a good point. LSU had almost 10,000 in attendance Saturday morning at 11 o'clock. Yeah, that doesn't make any money though, right, Edwin? Come on, man. There are lots of programs that don't make money in football too. Maybe we should just get rid of those. And Jimmy's also correct. One of the biggest revenue producers for the NCAA tournament, for the NCAA is the basketball tournament. The numbers on that are absurd. I'm pulling them up right now, and it will shoot down that argument that they don't make any money. So the NCAA basketball TV contract with CBS and Turner Sports, 14 years for $10.8 billion. 14 years for $10.8 billion, averaging out to $770 million per year. That, my friends, is absolutely no money. No, that's no money. That's no money. No one cares, but they're going to pay $770 million a year. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown. Jet Mech with a good point. Few athletic programs make a profit, but there are a couple of sports that always make a profit. Look, and I understand that football carries the way, especially with most SEC and ACC programs, the Big 12, the Power 5. I'm with you on that. But to say that people don't make, that other programs don't make money is ludicrous at its best. All right, so do you agree with Art Browse resigning? I don't think they should have ever hired him. We'll get into that if you want at 803-978-1832. My list of coaches, the coach basketball combo. I'm going with Alabama with Nate Oates and Nick Saban. That's the set that I would want. I learned today that $770 million a year is no money. Billy asked, how much money did the SEC sports just make? Yeah, I'll have to check on that. The SEC contract for football or for SEC sports is insane. And you want to know something else? And this may sound silly, but SEC gymnastics there are lots of people that go to that. You would be surprised. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown. We'll talk about the possibility of maybe the Power 5 conferences leaving the NCAA. We'll get into that when we come back. Also, we'll look at teams who have a very high winning percentage. What is their chance of making the college football playoff? We'll get into that as well. More of the Rundown when we come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Yeah, I'm not going to talk hockey there, Billy. I'm not going to do that. I'm looking up your number, though. Edwin knows. Big Party Ross off the top rope. What a mess. I wish that I could have something viable that I could say about that, but I don't. I don't know how to fix the stuff with Ukraine. I'm so weird with all that because, in my opinion, let's just carpet bomb. Let's just make parking lots out of Moscow, which isn't exactly the best way to go. In fact, forget that I said that. Well, LSU takes women's basketball seriously, so there's that too. Billy, I'm looking up your the SEC TV contract. Yeah, that's basketball's big down there, man. Yeah, it's a ton of money. From 2020, it says SEC will pay ESPN pays them in the low $300 million range. Mm. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio, 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Let's go out to the phones. Welcome into the program. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob, this is Billy.
Billy, what's up, buddy? Turn down your thing there, man.
I am.
Okay.
That isn't the.
Oops. I think I hung up on Billy by accident. Billy, call us back. All right, 803-978-1832. One more caller here. Welcome into the program. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob, it's Scott from Hartsville.
Hey, I hung up on Billy. My bad, Billy. Anyway, what you got? What you got, Scott?
Hey, is every team that gets into the NCAA tournament guaranteed a certain amount, or is the conference guaranteed the money?
Well, the NCAA distributes it, and I think that I'd have to Google that, to be honest with you. So yeah.
Yeah, looking at some of the, like South Carolina Upstate, there's a chance that they could win their conference and get in.
Yeah, I like Furman's chances better than in the SoCon, but we'll see.
It's gonna be a good tournament.
Yeah, I think so. Hold on for a second. I hung up on Billy by accident. That's my fault.
Okay.
So yeah, but anyway, go ahead. You're right. It is going to be a good tournament.
And I think Tennessee, for their basketball coach and their head coach, I think they will be surprising people in the upcoming years.
So you would go with them over Alabama's set with Saban and Oates?
I would go with them. Saban would probably win out, but if I'm talking about up-and-coming teams, I think they're going to be the up-and-coming team. Really, how much longer is Saban going to do it?
In the long haul, you think that would be the better set?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
I do.
All right.
I do. All right, thanks, man. Appreciate
it. All right, let's go back out to the phones. And welcome into the Rundown. Good afternoon.
This is Billy again.
Hey Billy, I'm sorry. I have like chunky fingers and I hit the wrong button, and that's my fault. Anyway, go ahead. What you got, man?
When you Google what did the SEC make, this wasn't just TV contracts. They made $778 million last year in 21 revenue. All the schools together, and each school, all 14 schools, got approximately right at $55 million. So back to the guy that's talking about baseball, not basketball. This is collective sports that the SEC generated. This is South Carolina. This is Vanderbilt. All programs together, they generated $778 million. So when he says those things don't count, yes, they do. Women's volleyball brings in money, women's basketball, tiddlywinks, whatever. So when you say they don't, when you're speaking of sports program, they generate just like, when you get in the field of 64, that's money. That's money.
Right, and I understand
when you go to bowl games, that's money.
Let me make sure I put this out there. I understand that football drives the ship, but you can have 80,000 fans in your stadium for football. I mean, there's just more of an opportunity there, So I want to put that out there. And I'm not saying that football is not important, because it is, but the thing that gets me is that there is a section of people that will say, I don't care about college basketball. I don't care about college baseball. And I think that is, to think that there's a lot of people that feel that way is just silly. It really is.
That's their prerogative. I used to live in Gainesville, Florida. When I was in the Air Force there, I was there. It was great to go watch a Sunday basketball game or a Saturday basketball game and walk out of the O'Connell Center, walk across the parking lot and catch a doubleheader of a baseball game, SEC big. And the parking lot and the stadiums are packed. So I don't know where this guy lives. I don't know if he lives in a holler or whatever. But if you go to a college town, trust me, there will be people at Kentucky baseball this weekend. There will be people at Tennessee baseball, and depending on how they so he don't like baseball and basketball. Good, have a good day, bye. But there's people that go watch women's volleyball, and just like Tennessee's basketball stadium.
Right.
Men didn't drive that 27,000 capacity. Stadium. That was the women's basketball program. They generated all that. But anyway, back to my point. SEC generated sports programs generated $778 million last year, and each school gets $55 million to split up. Hey, that's a lot of sports programs.
That's a lot of money.
Sports programs.
Yep, you're right about that, man. I'm glad.
Enjoy the show.
We agree on that. So good point. So have a good day.
Yeah. Bye bye.
All right. not to rip on the gentleman that made that comment over there. Maybe he just doesn't like basketball and baseball. Me personally, I mean, I've got to be honest with you. I am a guy that, look, I love college football. I love the NFL, but I'm a guy that baseball is just, I mean, it's just etched into my soul. I love some baseball and I love basketball too. So we're going to talk about those here. And here's the big thing too. What in the world am I going to talk about on the football front from right now until spring practice starts? You got to think about that too. Are we going to talk about, hey, we heard the backup snapper may have stubbed his toe. How will that affect the the team this season? It's a mess. Either way. Speaking of basketball, tonight South Carolina has senior night. The Gamecocks looking to get off the mat after they got thumped by Alabama over the weekend. I text a friend of the program, the Mazodcast, about the Mizzou program. They got Conzo Martin up there, and they are not very good. So I asked them what the temperature of the fan base was. I know that they are on the camp of they should tarmac Conzo Martin, just leave him at the next spot. Their comment to me was it's as far as the fan base, it's nearly universal. They want Conzo gone. The local SB Nation site has been trying to prop up Conzo for a year now, and they're increasingly isolated. Everyone wants him gone. This team is hot garbage. So I tell you that in tonight, the South Carolina Gamecocks in their home finale, before they go play Auburn this weekend, they are going to get a matchup with this Mizzou team that is absolutely terrible. And their coach is pretty much despised by the fan base. So go out, if you're a Gamecock fan, go out and watch some of the game tonight. Watch it on ESPN. You support the seniors that are out there with Coach Martin's team as they'll wrap up their season at the Colonial Life Arena tonight. Barring they don't make the NIT, etc. But their last regular season home game is tonight against Mizzou. And Gamecock fans should be happy because I think they're a better team than Mizzou. And they should mop the floor with them. Mizzou is really, really bad. Really, really bad. So there's that. Now, Clemson, on the other hand, they had a 6-game losing streak. They've won 2 straight without their 2 best players. I don't know what to think of the Clemson basketball team right now. They're not going to make the tournament unless they win the ACC tournament. But they have won 2 straight, and they've looked pretty good against Wake Forest, who's a team I think that's going to make the tournament, and they beat Boston College, who is another ACC bottom feeder. But they will play Georgia Tech tomorrow night. We'll see if they can keep that streak going. They've got Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech at home in the next for their final set for the season. 803-978-1832. Justin says South Carolina by 13 over Mizzou. I'll check the line on that during the break. I don't know if he's giving me the line on that or not, but Mizzou is just really bad. They lost to UC Kansas City, like the Kangaroos. Like, they're just not very good at all. They're just hoping that they can win against Georgia this week because Georgia's not very good either. All right, so let's look at some of the lines here. I'll pull them up during the break. You are listening to The Rundown. Thanks to the folks who are checking out the podcast. Appreciate it. You can find that at foxsportsradio1400.com. Very, very simple. Anywhere you get your favorite podcast, it's right there for you. More of The Rundown when we come back here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Looking for the line. Oof. Line's a little bit shorter than I thought it would be. A lot shorter than I thought it would be. I'll give that to you too, Billy. That's kind of funny. Mizzou beat Alabama this year. Look at that. 92-86. Oof. And then the next week they lost by 44 to Arkansas. What a terrible team. What a mess. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Tonight, South Carolina wraps up their home season as they welcome in Mizzou for senior night. Mizzou, by the way, just a quick look at their schedule. They are 10-19 on the season. They've got losses to Kansas City with the Kangaroos there. They got blown out by Florida State by 23. Lost to Liberty by 21. Lost to Kansas by 37. Lost to Kentucky by 27. They did beat Alabama by 6 at home. Then they go on the road and they lose by 44 to Arkansas. They beat Ole Miss, blew them out by 23 on the road, but Ole Miss isn't anything to really set home about. They were close with Auburn, 55-54 at Mizzou Arena. Looking at the rest of their schedule here, they've been close in some games, but blown out by Arkansas again, this time at home. They're coming in. They got blown out by Tennessee, blown out by LSU on Saturday. And they've got South Carolina before finishing with the I guess it's the cellar dweller matchup there with Georgia. But South Carolina is a 6.5-point favorite at home. I say roll with the Gamecocks because Mizzou is not very good. Billy asked, what was the line on the Tennessee-Georgia game? Let me see what I've got on that for you. For folks that like to place a wager here or there. Let's see if I can actually find that line for you. Tennessee and Georgia. Georgia is getting 16 points at home. Wow, with all that. Yeah, that's interesting. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown. We can talk about that. We can talk about some of the other stuff we talked about. I think Nick Saban and Nate Oates, it's kind of the best combination as far as SEC and ACC, is having good coach at both spots where it kind of balances out. Some of the other things I wanted to get into today. The Big 12 commissioner says he doesn't think schools will break away from the NCAA. The conference commissioner said the main reason being that not everyone would find success in a new league, including many programs used to winning. Bob Bowlesby said if 30 schools broke off, you take half of them that are traditional winners and they become traditional losers, according to the Athletics' Chris Vanini. Vanini reports the comments from Bowlesby came in response to a larger conversation about the idea of college athletes becoming employees, with the question being about the thought that schools could break away in order to professionalize some of their teams. That's interesting too. Larry Brown Sports reports that high-profile programs would inevitably have to deal with a lot more losing than they're used to if they wind up in a league where they lose to the biggest teams in the sport on a regular basis. I kind of understand that. If you take the top 30 teams and those 30 teams only play each other, think about that for a second. Put your top 30 in there, okay? And let's say they all go off and they join their own super league, and those 30 teams play each other. You're going to end up with a matchup every weekend where you could have Alabama playing Clemson, and in addition to Michigan playing, I don't know, LSU. The matchups there, I mean, teams are going to play each other in that 30-game theory there, and they're going to lose. I do think the NCAA needs somewhat of a reform, though. And I think that the way that they do things is backwards. The way that they treat some teams is different than others. Remember, they had what? South Carolina had, they popped South Carolina for a secondary violation because of extra cream on cookies or something like that. But North Carolina had the whole thing where their African American Studies department was basically giving out degrees like you were going through the drive-through at Bojangles to athletes. And it was just swept under the rug because North Carolina's like, we'll sue. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah. So the NCAA definitely needs some reform, and they need to get to a point where it's universal across the board. And they need to obviously fix the stuff with NIL, because yes, you can agree with the NIL being good, or you can think that it's bad, but where it's at right now, it's like the wild, wild west, man. It really, really is. It's just not the way that it's not really regulated right now. And the NCAA caved because they knew they were going to lose the court case. And obviously, you can't go back. The best thing you can do is try to relegate it a little bit. But I don't like the idea of having just a super conference is going to be the way to go. Anyway, we'll take calls on that at 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. Justin says, yes, Missouri beat Bama in the first game, then Bama beat them in the second. Yeah. Papa Blake says, I can't get how Bowlesby and the ACC commissioner sitting behind the Pac-12 leader like lapdogs. Yeah. Look, Greg Sankey has the mentality that, it's the SEC and everybody else. I don't think that's the best for college football. But if he's going to live with that mentality, then he's going to have to deal with, the other conferences. I mean, the SEC teams can't just play each other all year either. So there's that. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the rundown. Should the Power Five break off the top 30 football programs? And would they leave everything else the way that it was? Okay, the top 30 teams are over here. And then after that, we're going to have everything else is just going to be under the NCAA. You're basically making the NCAA toothless, is what it boils down to. Papa Blake says the NCAA caved because they were worried about how a backup quarterback at a small school got a used Kia instead of major stuff. Maybe. I just think that the NCAA completely needs to be, if they're going to be the head of athletics basically for the college campuses, then the way that they need to deal with things is very simple. Mizzou has the same rights and everything else that Alabama has, and they should be treated the same way, universal across the board. And I think that you have to get someone with a set of stones that's willing to tell Greg Sankey, look, I don't care. This is the way we're doing things. If you don't like it, sorry. Or to Bowlesby or whoever else. But the NCAA right now is just, it's like cold coffee is basically the way it boils down to it. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. We'll take a quick break in a moment. We come back. I'll give you some of the teams that have really high winning percentages, but don't have a CFP appearance. We'll talk about who should be in that mix to be the next CFP team there out of this set of high winning percentage programs. We'll get into that when we come back. Hey, don't forget, the show is brought to you by Mazda of Columbia. Of course, Greg Hood, the owner of Mazda of Columbia. Go by and tell him hello. Go and buy yourself a car because, why not? Especially gas prices are through the roof right now. If you're running around in one of those pickup trucks that's like, what, $12 a gallon? We may get to that. Who knows? Or 12 miles per gallon. Yeah, go and get you a little fuel-efficient little car there. You can get that at Mazda of Columbia. Shop online at MazdaofColumbia.com. Check out the podcast Greg and I do together as well. Just look for what's good under the hood. Elijah says the NCAA should be like the federal government by protecting the rights of student athletes and nothing more. Also, federal government should do nothing else but protect the rights of the citizens. Well, that's true too. It's kind of what the government's there for, but we don't want to talk politics on the radio because you can't win. People will think that you could be you make one statement and people are like, oh, they want to put you in a box just because you think this way you're a right-wing nut job or you're a left-wing idiot. People want to put people in boxes. It's silly. All right, we come back. We'll look at these high percentage football teams win a lot of games that haven't made the CFP. More of those when we come back here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I read the comment, Elijah. It's my fault. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I agree with you on that. The government's supposed to be work for the people, not for themselves. I posted on Facebook this morning, and I will share this with you because I don't do a lot of political stuff, but let's see here. Hold on, I'll read you what I posted. Oh, I did post, if you're cheering for Russia, you should move to Russia. That was over the weekend. That didn't go over too well. Oh, here's what I posted. A quote from John Adams, our second president of the United States, says, "There's nothing which I dread so much as the division of the Republic into two great parties, each arraigned under its leader, and concerting measures in opposition to each other. This, in my humble apprehension, is to be dreaded as the greatest political evil under our Constitution." Ta-da! He's right. Now, what I posted was just to help out the small-minded folks because I hadn't had my coffee yet. They said, Democrats do not care about you. Republicans don't care about you. John Adams was absolutely correct. Until we get people out of the mindset the two-party system is the only way to go, we'll continue to deal with hogwash. So, yeah, there's my political leanings. I'll put those out there for you. I hear politicians talk, and I'm just like, you guys should just move along. Term limits. There you go. One time I talk politics on this show, and only you folks get to hear it over there on the stream. Not really a libertarian. It's not a libertarian box thing. I mean, I think that we should, I'm not in this whole thing of we should build walls around our country and not be a world power. I just think that the majority of the people that run for office under the Democratic or the GOP I just don't think they care. I really don't. And I'm not into Ron Paul either. That's a disaster. The rundown brought to you by Mazda of Columbia, MazdaofColumbia.com. Who is next? This is an interesting set here, too. You know, the college football playoff is generally the Alabama/Clemson Invitational because they go pretty much every season. I think that every year that we've had the college football playoff, and I had to go back and look at it, but you've had either Alabama or Clemson in the CFP every season. It's just the way that it is. Oklahoma has a lot of appearances too. They don't do much when they get there, but they absolutely do get there. Michigan and Cincinnati became the latest teams to break through this season, and both of them got just popped in the semifinals. But here's the big thing, though. Who's the next set of teams most wins without a CFP appearance? Now, the top two are G5 teams. And it's hard for me to take G5 teams seriously because I just don't think they have the capability to compete at the level of some of these other teams that are from the Power 5 conferences. So here's the big thing. One is App State, two is Boise State. I'm not buying that at all. So let's just do the Power 5 teams. Most wins without a CFP appearance since 2014. Wisconsin is at number 3 with 76 wins. So over an 8-year period, they're averaging, 75 wins. They're averaging about 9 wins a season. That is really good. Oklahoma State's right there behind them with 72 wins. Your next Power 5 team is at number 7 is Iowa. Utah is at 8 with 68, followed by Penn State at 67. The Florida Gators check in at number 10 with 65, along with Texas A&M, who's right there tied with them at 65. Now, obviously, things don't look, it looks like they're trying to rebuild down there at Florida right now, but that shows you the consistency of the Florida program. Texas A&M, on the other hand, they're right there in the mix too, about an 8-win team every season since the college football playoff started. And then we go down the list here. The next Power 5 team is Auburn at 62, followed by Baylor at 61, Miami at 61, NC State at 61. Now, these are teams that have high winning percentages, but have not made the CFP. And of those teams, if I had to pick a team that I think could realistically make a CFP appearance, I think you have to look at, can a team beat Ohio State in the Big Ten? Could you go with a Penn State? Could you go with an Iowa? I think those are two teams you have to look at, in my opinion, that are right there in the mix. And Oklahoma State, can they get past Baylor? I think Oklahoma State may be a team that this season might shock some folks, simply based on the fact that Derek Mason is now their defensive coordinator, and I really buy into what Coach Mason does. And if the mullet can keep the offense right and they get enough out of that defense, they may be able to challenge. We shall see. But Penn State and Wisconsin are the teams that I look at, and I'm like, all right, I can definitely buy into that. Now, here's the thing. People are like, why wouldn't you go with Florida? Well, right now, I think Florida's in rebuilding mode. But I think Florida has issues with, they're going to have to deal with Georgia right now, who's got their foot on the gas, and they're not giving up the SEC East anytime soon. In addition to that, Florida has to deal with Kentucky, another program that's on the rise. And Florida doesn't want to hear about this, but South Carolina has dropped the hammer too, getting some big transfer portal guys in here and making it where South Carolina is kind of the transfer portal place to go. And with that, that's why I think it's going to be hard for Florida to unseat Georgia in the East. There's going to be other teams there that could get with them. Tennessee's going to be pretty good too with Heipel. If they could ever learn how to play defense and not give up however many points they gave up to the Children of the Corn from Purdue. They got to learn to play some defense there, but hey, they're definitely going to put up some points. But as far as other teams go, I mean, I really like Oklahoma State and Utah. Utah out in the Pac-12. They don't have to deal with Oregon anymore. They can coast right through that Pac-12 and possibly make their way into the college football playoff. I mean, is there a Pac-12 team that you look at? I know that Southern Cal has Lincoln Riley, but right now I think he's having to try to catch up there because it seems like Southern Cal's kind of just a smidge below being where they can actually win the conference. So for me, the teams that are next, Utah from the Pac-12, Oklahoma State from the Big 12, and I like Wisconsin, Iowa, and Penn State from the Big 10. Who do you think should be next? 803-978-1832. Dakota says, don't sleep on Wisconsin. Elijah says the defense was decent at UT until the end of the year. I really believe that depth was the biggest issue. Tim Banks coached his butt off last year. Yeah, but the last thing that you remember is your last game, and the Children of the Corn ran up and down the field on you. So, and that's something else too. My buddy Carolina Jackpot, who's a heck of a Gamecock YouTuber, he gets upset when people talk about its lack of depth. I'm tired of hearing about lack of depth. Yeah. I agree that you do need that depth, but man, in the end, look at what Coach White did at South Carolina last season, bringing them up and basically making them respectable in the SEC. Papa Blake says, don't sleep on BYU in the Big 12. All right. You think that they'll have an opportunity? We shall see. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on the rundown. Papa Blake's got a good point, too. Early season losses always get Wisconsin. You know, a team that doesn't have I like Northwestern just because they're the smart kids. I know that sounds kind of silly, but they end up being a spoiler. Seriously. And Elijah says Tennessee had 61 scholarship players. You know what? Tennessee put themselves in that position. It's kind of hard to feel bad for them. The 61 scholarship players, they were able to go up and down the field on offense. Stopping the children of the corn once or twice isn't that far-fetched for an SEC team, is it? Just wondering. Later on this week on the rundown, we're going to have Andrew Jones on from Tar Heel Illustrated. You know, I mentioned earlier, it's the final Duke-North Carolina matchup for Coach K. And Andrew Jones actually covered Duke for like 20 years. And now he covers North Carolina. He can give us the perspective of both. And how that series is so big, where right now, if you wanted to go to this game, it's $5,000. Even though earlier we were told people don't care. $5,000 to go to the North Carolina Duke matchup. I'm a North Carolina and Duke hater. I'm not going to lie. So for me personally, I think I'm not even going to watch the game. I'll be watching some college baseball game because I do care about that. It's not that I don't care about basketball. I just refuse to watch Duke and North Carolina. Dakota says, as a Tennessee fan, I'm terrified when our defense takes the field. You know, the other thing with that is that with the high-powered offense that Tennessee has, you can make an argument. Not that I'm defending Tennessee, but if they're scoring all these points, the defense is going to be out there longer. Time of possession is Tennessee doesn't have the ball much because they're scoring so much. So there's that. All right, so Andrew Jones joining us later on in the week. We'll also have some baseball stuff. Remember, I'm off on Friday, but we'll have the baseball rivalry covered for you as South Carolina and Clemson hook up this weekend. South Carolina plays USC Upstate today. Oh, no, Clemson's got USC Upstate. I've got my numbers mixed up. South Carolina's got App State today. So there you go with that. All right. Had a great show here for you on the rundown. Podcast is up or will be up at foxsportsradio1400.com. My buddy Lawton Swan is the czar of Clemson sports. Be sure to check him out as he will entertain you this afternoon.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
I'm Rob Sanders. I'm on Twitter at Rob Sounds Good. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey, thank you guys. We'll see you later. Appreciate y'all.